And we're back here on Pub Day on A Mighty Blaze. Hannah Orenstein is my guest. It's Pub Day, and we're all head over heels for Head Over Heels.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's such a pleasure. And again, once again, I was just here at 1, so like I took like this little break, and I'm still Robin Kall on behalf of Reading with Robin, celebrating A Mighty Blaze Pub Day. Hannah, it is so exciting to have you here. I love your setup.
Thank you.
It looks like you're going to do like an autographing during the event. I love it.
Pretending it's a bookstore.
I know it is a bookstore. It is all, I mean, it is all a bookstore. I'm going to give you a proper introduction. Hannah Orenstein is the author of Playing with Matches, Love at First Like, and just out today, Head Over Heels, is a former competitive gymnast. She is a senior dating editor at Elite Daily, I need better lighting here, and was previously a writer and editor at 17.com. Her work has appeared in the Washington Post, Cosmopolitan, Marie Claire, Refinery 29, and more. This book is celebrated as like a must-read best pick so many places, as well as A Mighty Blaze and Reading with Robin. She lives in New York, and visit her at hannahorenstein.com and check out her super adorable Instagram feed where she's doing cartwheels. I was going to ask you to do one now, but welcome to Mighty Blaze on Pub Day, Hannah. Yay!
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do a cartwheel. I pinched into my dress. So
I noticed you were dressed. It's funny because I didn't know what your setup would be, but when I was on your Instagram, I love that you did a cartwheel. And it reminded me, like when we were in school, I mean, my memory of gymnastics and the women, the young girls who were gymnasts, like we all wore shorts under our dresses because we were always doing cartwheels. And when you were doing cartwheel, like it just like flashed back to me. But like I literally remember every gymnast in my high school, junior high school. I always thought that was the coolest thing. And so I was really excited about this book, and I love a rom-com, and your books are just so entertaining and smart and thought-provoking, and you know, and they're funny. And so that's, you know, I'm a big fan. So I'm really, really happy to have you here. So, and you dedicate the book, which I loved, to all the athletes who spoke up about the abuse in gymnastics. It is a rom-com, but you know, there is that too. I'm in awe of your strength, bravery, and perseverance. Thank you for making this sport safer. So there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot to talk about in this book. And also when you wrote it, it was coming out the summer of the 2020 Olympics.
yeah.
So I'm going to let you take the floor. We have a lot to say, and we are head over heels for this book.
Sure. Thank you. So the book it takes place over the months leading up to the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. It's about a coach who used to be an elite gymnast, and she just narrowly missed out on making the 2012 Olympics due to an injury. And she really struggles for a lot of years. And eventually, when she's in her late 20s, in the lead up to the 2020 Olympics, she returns to her hometown after a breakup, and she starts training an aspiring athlete who wants to make the 2020 Olympics. Obviously, when I wrote it, I thought, you know, we would all be really excited about the Olympics right now. I had no idea that the pandemic would really just push things off course. The Olympics have been postponed until next year, and like hopefully they can happen, but you know, who really knows? And you know, this book is very much a celebration of gymnastics. I was a gymnast for 15 years, and it, you know, that's like, those are my happiest memories really of my childhood. But, you know, I know that I was very lucky, and for a lot of gymnasts, you know, the sport is really not a very safe place, whether that is due to abuse, physical, emotional, sexual, due to injuries, due to mental health issues. So, you know, the book does interrogate a lot of the ways that the sport systematically fails girls and young women. There is a plot line inspired by the Larry Nassar case, and he is serving a minimum of 300 years in prison after 256 women spoke out against him with charges dating back to 1992. So that is part of the book, but you know, it is really, above all, it's about a story. It's a story of a woman who is finding herself after many years of tough times, and paying it forward to make the sport a better place for the next generation of athletes.
It's such a compulsively readable novel, and it's the kind of thing where everybody has memories in some way. I mean, listen to me speaking for everybody, but I think about the Olympics and all of the gymnasts who we admired so much, you know, down the line. And I mean, that was always my favorite sport when the Summer Olympics would be on. and we would just be glued to the TV to watch gymnasts, mostly the floor exercises. That was always my favorite, and the balance beam. Not the vaulting so much, the bars, okay, but yeah, the beam and the floor, those are mine. But like, just, there's just something about that. And then, you know, with all of the stories that came out, certainly about Larry Nassar and going back all those years, I mean, you know, in any sport where the, you know, that physical toll and the mental aware, you know, all of that that goes into a sport, and to be that awesome at a sport, you know, it's just, it's good that everybody is taking a look at it, and that so many women came forward. It's just, you know, I remember when the news broke, and we're in Rhode Island, you're from Massachusetts, right? And so, you know, the story was front and center, and it's so important, but it's amazing, like the research that you must have done and sort of reliving those times. Or speaking, did you speak to many of the gymnasts, or was it mostly online research? Or
It was really interesting. You know, a lot of the gymnastics culture in the book, I didn't need to do research just because I've lived through it.
Right.
But I did do some research, especially into the more technical aspects of, you know, what does the scoring system look like? How do I make sure that that feels really accurate? And then I've also had the privilege of interviewing a lot of Olympic gymnasts, especially during my time when I was an editor at 17. So I spoke with Lori Hernandez at the height of her Olympic success, and I spoke with Michaela Maroney when she was transitioning away from gymnastics into her new career as a musician. And so those experiences were really wonderful. And, you know, because I did want to do justice to the darker themes in the story, you know, just to really honor the gymnasts who have put themselves out there and been so brave. I did have a lot of conversations with people at the National Domestic Violence Hotline, the National Eating Disorder Awareness Group, and then also RAIN, which is an organization for sexual assault survivors. So those conversations really did inform a lot of the more difficult discussions in the book.
And that's the thing about reading and book discussions and book clubs. It's a great book club pick. It's a great book. It opens up discussions, and it allows for empathy and for realizations. And I think, you know, conversation, education, and all of that, and just everything that you just described, you know, when you first sat down to write the book, that was part of the storyline. But what was it like writing it, and then sort of going back in your own mind? Did you think about situations with young girls that you maybe thought like, I wonder if that was happening, or, you know, just any of those things come up for you?
Yeah, you know, I started outlining the book. I always start with an outline. That's just my process. In January, and I started writing the first draft in March. And starting in April, I was pretty much like incapacitated with chronic pain, which is left over from my time as a gymnast. And I've experienced it on and off, you know, since I was a kid. But I had such terrible back pain that I like wasn't really going to work. I was just going in and out of doctor's offices and going to physical therapy, and you know, I was so miserable that I couldn't even work on the book. And so, you know, this book is about how gymnastics warps children well into their adult lives, and how they deal with the trauma, and how they grapple with this question of, what did I sacrifice? You know, is this worth it? Yeah. And so to be able to, not to be able to, but, you know, because I had to go through that experience as an adult while I was writing this book, you know, it really did add a more personal layer to think about, you know, what sacrifices did I make? You know, I would do it all again, I think, but, you know, I had to sort of examine those questions for myself while I was writing this book.
Yeah, and as a parent, when your child is that engrossed in, you know, just it's everything. It's just all you know, that's the world. Gymnast, yeah. You know, practices or weekends away. It's just everything. And so when you have that passion and that talent, also as a parent, you know, realizing what I do have one friend who, you know, where there were a lot of kids who were just doing an amazing amount of stuff, and they'd be like, you know, you're not going to be doing X, Y, or Z with it. And I was always like, well, how do you know? How do you know if they are? Maybe they are. You know, that was always her mantra. Like, it was too much. I'm like, well, who's to say what's too much? But it is interesting in a rear view perspective, and also when you're writing. And we are talking about the super fun rom-com novel, Head Over Heels by Hannah Orenstein. It's just out today, and visit hannahorenstein.com for more information. Also find her on Instagram. Your Facebook page is personal, and Twitter, or
yeah, my Facebook is personal, but for Twitter and Instagram, it's Hannah Orens, HANNAHORENS, and I would love to connect with you there.
Okay, I'll go back on Twitter. I was like looking for it, and I saw your name spelled out, but okay, so it's Hannah Orens on Instagram and on Twitter. And it's a great way to connect with your readers. And I know tonight you have a Zoom chat via the Strand. So that's at 7 o'clock. So people see more. Now, will you be doing cartwheels tonight or still in the dress?
I think I'll just be sitting down. It's been a long time since I was a gymnast, so I think one cartwheel a day is good enough for me these days.
See a cartwheel, go to Hannah Orenstein on Instagram and you can see that. And it was a lot of fun, and there's great energy behind your Instagram and the book. So talk about Avery. She started, and also because you write dating advice. So like, how did you sort of put that and in all of your books? It's the rom-com, but what would your dating advice be for Avery?
That's a good question. So my day job, I work as the senior dating editor at Elite Daily, and previously I worked as a matchmaker as well. So I've worked in the dating industry in a couple different ways. And Avery is a character who, just narrowly missed out on making the Olympics. And she suddenly, for the first time at 19, had time to herself. She wasn't in the gym 40, 60, 80 hours a week. And so she really didn't grow up with a normal kind of childhood. She wasn't going to school. She was homeschooled. She didn't date. She didn't go to senior prom, So for her, she really encounters things like dating and relationships in her 20s for the first time. And, she struggles with that. And I think at first, she throws herself completely into a relationship and really forgets a lot about who she is. And she really loses touch with her identity. And it takes her a breakup, which happens on page 1 of the book. It's not a spoiler.
It's not a spoiler, but I was like that guy, and then he's on Instagram, and like I was like, or whatever, was it Instagram and
yeah,
your girlfriend, and I was like, no, don't look. Anyway,
yeah, it's horrible. So she has a breakup that kicks off the events of the rest of the book. And what I love about her breakup, terrible thing to go through, but it really does light a fire under her butt, and it makes her chase her ambition in more powerful ways. And so that kicks off a lot for her. She moves across the country, she gets a new job, she reconnects with her childhood crush, who she now works with. She is spurred to get in touch with her best friend, Jasmine, who is estranged from her, and they haven't spoken in 7 years. And she becomes a new person. And so I was really proud of the way that she grew over the course of the book. And I think that if you're going through a tough time, even if it's just like your life has been knocked off course by the pandemic in ways you didn't expect, her life has been knocked off course too. And so I think that I hope she's a relatable character. So my dating advice for her would really just to be, to take stock of all the things that she's proud of, because she's done a lot and she's really accomplished. And over the course of the book, I think readers will see her grow into herself a little bit more and feel a little bit more comfortable in her own skin.
Yeah, I like that, because I was thinking about how you would relate that, and how, just to digress for a second, did you get into being a matchmaker? You're so young to do that. What was that? I forget. Was that a family?
No. So I grew up reading the Boston Globe, which has a matchmaking column every Sunday called Dinner with Cupid in the magazine. And I just thought it was fantastic. And so when I got to college, I was setting up, other students on campus, and I would write about their blind dates every week. And then when I was 20, I interned at Elle magazine, where Eugene Carroll is the advice columnist, or previously was the advice columnist, and she ran a matchmaking company. And so I ran into her at Elle, and I told her about my matchmaking, and she hired me as a matchmaker. So at 21, I became the youngest matchmaker at the country's largest dating service. And my first novel, Playing with Matches, is inspired by that experience.
I love that. You know what? I'm conflating somebody who I forget. I can picture her book where it was a generational matchmaking, right? I can't think of the.
I know it off the top of my head.
I'm conjuring her in this part of my mind, which is not coming through to the camera. And we're chatting with Hannah Orenstein. Head Over Heels is out just today. It's pub day. It's Tuesday, the day all the pretty books come out. And you can visit her at hannahorenstein.com and Hannah Orens on Twitter and on Instagram. And we'll be posting about it here on A Mighty Blaze as well. And yeah, that is crazy. Like, that is a crazy resume to have. I love, some people just have a knack for that, right? And how are people managing now? Like, what's the dating situation right now with online and like, what do you do? I've thought about that a lot.
Yeah, people are on dating apps. Dating app activity is up by at least 20% across all apps. And people are having dates on FaceTime and Zoom and Skype. And one issue that really just has never happened before in the dating world is that people will say, like, I'm comfortable having a date with a mask, or I'm comfortable dating only 6 feet apart, or, there's just a lot more hoops to jump through before you can even meet up. if
Yeah.
you feel comfortable meeting up, which a lot of people don't. So it's a challenge.
I've thought about that a lot, but then on the other side of it, like, it's almost like back to the days of writing letters or something. Like, you must really get to know somebody, or, because it can be a shocker one day to like get up and say, wait, you're fully drunk. It's just like thinking about all of the I don't know, just what you have to go through to, like you say, to do that, or to be connected in a Zoom conversation. And then, not everybody is comfortable, as you say, working 6 feet apart. And then, although I guess the tension then can really build. I'm just curious about like the anthologies that will then come out from this time period.
It's going to be fascinating.
Right. What if you're head over heels for someone? Huh? I love your titles. You have the best title. And okay, so we're talking about reconnecting, like Avery with her. You said it had been 7 years since she had seen her friend who winds up marrying their coach, right? Is that right? So, what was it like sort of writing from the perspective of these two women, and something happens, where they haven't spoken, and there's never any spoilers. The book just came out. Don't worry, don't get nervous, people. But what did you sort of tap into for that back and forth?
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by friendships between Olympic gymnasts. I grew up loving Nastia Liukin and Shawn Johnson, and, the media really, put them against each other, but they're best friends. They're still best friends. Like, Nastia just went to Shawn's house and met her new baby, and it was very cute. I don't like this idea that female friendship has to be competitive. Of course it's not. It's really wonderful and supportive. But in the case of an Olympic gymnast or any athlete, they are literally competing against each other, and they are ranked on the podium stand. And so what interested me about this friendship between Avery and Jasmine is that they were teammates as kids. They were childhood best friends, and they shared everything. Like, their whole world was just each other in this sport. And as adults, not a single element of their lives look the same. Avery has really, fallen from grace. She's no longer involved in the sport for many years, whereas Jasmine went on to win the Olympics, and she, just had this really wonderful career, and she is famous. She's a celebrity. She's really accomplished. She's on TV all the time. And so that tension was really interesting to write. Just sort of, you're always curious, like, that person you've seen in a really long time, what is their life like? Could you imagine if you were watching them on TV all the time,
No, that would be very sad. I would change the channel.
And Avery does. Yeah, there's a scene. She's watching her on TV, and she's like, oh God. But then, of course, Jasmine is involved with, she's married to their coach who was emotionally abusive. And so, the two women have to find a way to talk about that after a really difficult childhood.
Yeah, I think that the delving, back into childhood and doing the things that, people make excuses for, or that for a bigger purpose, or they don't even realize it's happening, or however that goes, sort of reckoning with that, with each other, reckoning with it with oneself, and then also reckoning with it with the people around who will bear witness to what happened, and it's not like, well, it was not in your head, this did happen. So that's where there's just so much to this book. And I do think it would be such a fabulous book club pick. And how are you reaching? I mean, you're reaching a lot of people, obviously. It's a very different book launch, but are there groups? Such a great book for, mothers and daughters and women's groups. I don't know. There's just a lot in this book. And I really am excited for readers to get their hands on Head Over Heels.
If you have a book group, if anybody watching has a book group, reach out to me, send me an email, hannah@hannahorenstein.com. And I would love to stop by your book group and maybe do like a Zoom or something. So I would love to chat with you.
So the Zoom hasn't gotten old yet? This is still okay?
Sure.
Yeah, and so are you in Brooklyn now?
So I usually live in Brooklyn, but right now, just for the duration of the pandemic, I'm here in Boston with my family.
You're up here.
Yeah.
I say that like, oh, I can go meet you. I still can't do that.
Yeah.
I say that like, oh, she's right here. She's just north, right? So you're home with me. Okay, yeah.
I'll wave at you from my porch.
I know. It's been a really interesting, like, we've started all this 3+ months ago, and it's, you don't know how long this is going on, but like the books continue to come, life goes on, and I think people are reading even more than ever. It's a great way to, get into another story. escape a bit. That becomes a little overused, but I do really think that escape is now a really viable thing to be doing. And, connect with your friends over books. And there are like there's so many new book clubs forming. I get a lot of this information. So it's very heartening for me to hear that people that were like, oh, I don't know about a book club. And now they're like, can we please meet up and discuss things? And so, yeah, I love that. So what are you reading? I didn't, I always like to ask, like, what are some of your favorite books? Because I know I would like them.
Yeah, so I'm waiting at the door every day. I go to check to see if 2 books that I just ordered are arriving. One is 28 Summers by Ellen Hildebrand, and one is Party of Two by Jasmine Guillory.
Another great book.
Fantastic. And I just finished a memoir. It's like a memoir or like book of essays called The Groom Will Keep His Name by Matt Ortile. And it's a memoir about growing up as a gay Filipino immigrant working in media in his career and dating adventures. And it's just really fantastic and really well written.
Sounds really good. The Groom Will Keep His Name. Yeah, there's nothing like waiting for books, and some books are just taking longer to come. Mm-hmm. I hope that yours arrive really soon, because I read both of those, and those are 2 winners that you have on the way. Yeah, no, I know. It's like I pick up a book and I just want to dig into it. And then of course, I'm doing a lot of interviews. I don't get to sometimes, but like I have stacks where I'm just like, I just wish the world could stop so I could just catch up and read. And a lot of us in the book world feel that way, but there are so many wonderful books. And I saw, so Head Over Heels is on so many lists. And I think that speaks to, what people want to be reading. And I love that it, takes place in the world of gymnastics, and that you have all of that experience. So now this is your 3rd book. Was writing about being a gymnast something that you thought about for the first book? Like where did you decide like, okay, now I want to put myself in this story?
Yeah, I've always wanted to write about gymnastics, and I just wasn't quite sure how to do it. So while I was trying to sell my first book, my agent was shopping it around, and I had this idea for a YA novel about gymnastics. And it didn't really make sense at that point to branch off into another genre when I was trying to work in women's fiction. So I shelved that. And then I kept thinking, like, how can an adult be involved in gymnastics? Because, I'm not going to write YA. And of course, the idea is for her to come back as a coach when she's older. So that's where this came from. So it's been something I've been thinking about for a few years.
Love that. Yeah. And it's coming back as a coach or in any other iteration in something that you're so passionate about and spent so much time in is always an interesting perspective, and gives so much back to the sport and for those coming up, and, having that experience and sort of thinking about how, it's enriched your life. And then also, like you say, you would do it all over again. I mean, so what's better than that? I would, if I had to do it all over again, I would. And it's Hannah Orenstein. It's Head Over Heels. Will you hold up yours together so we'll take a little, screenshot. Yay, Hannah Orenstein. And go to hannahorenstein.com and Hannah Orens on Instagram and on Twitter. And tonight you can find her on the Strand. Do you just go to the Strand on Facebook and find the Zoom link, or?
Yep, we're going to be on Zoom and Facebook Live, but go to the Strand's Facebook and we'll be there.
Oh, okay. So go to the Strand's Facebook. I don't want to send anybody in the wrong direction. You don't have to park. You don't have to do anything. Just go right online. It's at 7:00, and you can watch more of Hannah. And this was such a treat. And congratulations on Pub Day. And I will wave to you. Wait, Boston is this way. I think it is this way.
Thank you so much, Robin. You are fantastic.
Oh, it was such a pleasure. Congratulations. I'm excited for you. And everybody, get this. Head Over Heels. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.